today. First up, we have Tiffany Eckstein-Hartwig, and she is the Bridge Program Coordinator for the Harford County Department of Housing and Community Services. The Bridge Program helps connect families to mental and behavioral health resources, as well as providing mental and behavioral health education to at-risk youth in Harford County. Along with her coordinator role, Tiffany educates youth on mental health, substance use, and healthy relationship behaviors. And with her, she has Carrie Bynum. She is an intern with the Department of Housing and Community Services. She has spent her internship educating the community on the topics of mental health, substance use, and healthy behaviors and choices. She is currently a senior in high school and planning to attend the University of Colorado at Boulder in the fall. She'll be majoring in psychology and criminology with the hope of becoming a forensic psychologist. So I'm so excited to have them both here with us today. And I'm going to go ahead and let them do their presentation. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jess, for that introduction. So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're really honored to be invited to be part of this webinar. We think that the topic of healthy relationship behaviors and learning unhealthy relationship behaviors is really important, not just to young people, but everyone. We're all in relationships of some sort. And with that being said, we want to talk about, when we're talking about relationships in this webinar, we're not specifically talking about just romantic relationships. Like, I understand the theme of the webinar is all hearts and pink and Carrie's beautiful sweater with the hearts on it and Valentine's Day. We often think about relationships as relationships with our romantic partners, but we have all different varieties of relationships in our lives. So we have, in addition to romantic partners, we've got friends, family members, neighbors, coworkers. So we have a lot of relationships in our lives and they all deserve to be healthy. So we're going to talk about that today. There we go. But before we start, we want to talk about that this presentation is going to cover some sensitive topics, including relationship abuse and domestic violence, and some other information regarding unhealthy relationships that can be heightening or triggering for some people. So if at any time you feel like you need to take a break, please feel free to do so. You do have that space, and make use of the available resources. I believe that Mackenzie shared them in the chat with you, and they're also going to be available on the next slide as well. But also keep in mind that we are not licensed counselors. We're just educators, and this is just meant to educate and inform, but it in no way takes place of meeting with a licensed counselor or maybe speaking to a mental health professional. So here are those resources. They will be available in the chat and then again at the end. But here, if you want to take a look at these are some of the resources that are available should you need them during the course of the presentation. Okay, so what is your goal today? So there's a reason that you signed up or that this topic seemed interesting to you for you to spend your lunch hour with us. So, think about during the course of the presentation while Carrie and I are sharing this information, what brought you here? What are some things that you maybe already know about dating and relationships in your life? What's something that you're hoping to learn? And maybe there's something that you would like to take away from today's webinar. So at the end, there'll be some time for some question and answers. So think about some of these things, and if you're comfortable at the end to share them, ask some questions, and Carrie and I will do our best to answer those. So to go over the agenda for the next hour, we're going to talk about the signs of healthy and unhealthy relationships. And so those are the benchmarks of everything that we talk about today, is understanding what those signs are. We're going to describe them for you in detail and what they look like in relationships. And then Carrie's going to go over some practice scenarios. So you'll be available to, if you want to participate in the chat on whether or not you think that certain scenarios that we present to you are going to be healthy or unhealthy. Next, we're going to talk about handling conflict. So there is a healthy way to handle conflict, and we're going to discuss those in detail. And then what to do if something feels off. We all have that gut feeling that we like to listen to sometimes, or maybe we don't want to listen to sometimes, but what's the best way to handle that if something does feel off in a relationship? And then how the media portrays relationships. There's all different types of things that we're influenced, whether on social media, on movies and film and TV, and not all those relationships that they're portraying are healthy. At the very end, like I said, we'll be available for any questions, comments, or any concerns. And so we're going to get right into it with those 10 signs. So we're going to start out first with the signs of a healthy relationship. So the first one is going to be trust. Trust is having the confidence that the other person won't do anything to hurt you or jeopardize the relationship. And honesty. Honesty is feeling that you can be truthful and open without worrying or feeling how the other person will respond. So trust is more kind of a feeling, and honesty is that action. Next is comfortable pace. This is where the relationship moves at a speed that feels enjoyable for each person. Things progress so that both parties feel safe and secure. Independence. You have space to be yourself and enjoy other experiences outside of the relationship. Being able to spend time with friends and family and enjoy hobbies. Respect. You appreciate one another's beliefs and opinions, even if they're not your own, and you care for one another for who you both are as individuals. Differences with respect is very important. Taking personal responsibility. It's having and showing accountability for your own actions and words. It's not just saying I'm sorry, but making the repair is part of the accountability process. Kindness. You are caring, compassionate, and empathetic towards one another and provide comfort and support. Equality. The relationship feels balanced and everyone puts the same effort into the success of the relationship. And it's not always 50-50 all the time. Some days all we have to give is 30, and our partner, our friend, or whoever it is that we're in that relationship with can maybe fill in that gap and give that 70. And then there's going to be days where you give more, but it always feels balanced. And fun. Fun is when you enjoy spending time together and bringing out the best in each other. And healthy disagreements or healthy conflicts. It's where you openly and respectfully discuss issues and confront disagreements non-judgmentally. Conflict is totally okay and completely healthy, but how you have conflict matters. This can be something that takes time and practice and involves open communication. And we're going to talk about this more a little later. So now the 10 signs of an unhealthy relationship. Intensity. When someone expresses very extreme feelings and over-the-top behaviors that feel very overwhelming. Possessiveness. When someone tries to control who you spend time with and what you do. Manipulation. When someone tries to control your decisions, your actions, your choices, or your emotions. Isolation. When someone keeps you away from friends, family, or other people. Sabotage. When someone purposely ruins your reputation, achievements, or successes. Belittling. When someone does and says things that can be cruel and hurtful, and as a result, you can feel bad about yourself. Guilting is when someone makes you feel responsible for their actions or makes you feel like it's your job to keep them happy. Volatility. It's when someone has a really strong and unpredictable reaction that can make you feel scared, confused, or intimidated. Imagine that walking on eggshells feeling. That explains volatility. Deflecting responsibility. When someone repeatedly makes excuses for their unhealthy behavior. This is the opposite of taking personal responsibility. And lastly, betrayal. When someone is disloyal or acts in an intentional, dishonest way. So those are the 10 signs of a healthy and unhealthy relationship. And like I said, those are kind of the benchmarks of understanding whether or not these behaviors are healthy or unhealthy in your relationship. Sometimes they can get a little bit confusing, which is why we're going to get into do some scenarios next and talk about how to identify whether these relationship behaviors are healthy or unhealthy. So with that, I am going to take it over to Carrie.
Hi everyone. So as Tiffany was saying, sometimes it's hard to see those relationship behaviors, or they can kind of come up in some subtle ways that are different than just thinking of the definition. So that's why we're going to go over some examples. Feel free to answer in the chat whether you think the relationship behaviors are healthy or unhealthy, and there's no judgment in that. We're going to talk about them and kind of break them down. So it's just what you think. And again, as was said earlier, these examples reference your partner, but they could apply to anyone, a friend relationship, like parents, really anyone that you have relationship with. All of these behaviors could happen in any type of relationship, not just your significant other. So with that, our first scenario is your partner tells you how special you are and how much they care about you. So you can put in the chat whether you think this is healthy or unhealthy. Okay, yeah. So a lot of people are saying in the chat, this is a healthy relationship behavior. No matter how long you've been in a relationship, it's really important to let the other person know that they mean a lot to you, that you enjoy being in that relationship. And, this can look different for everyone. It could be like saying, I love you every day, or, letting them know that you're proud of them. But, it's important to keep that up and let the other person know that they mean a lot to you and that you enjoy being in the relationship. Okay, our next scenario is your partner uses a name or pronoun that you don't like, but stops using it once you correct them or ask them not to. Yeah, again, this is another healthy relationship behavior. So, whoever we're talking to can't always read our minds. And so they might use a name or nickname that you don't like. Maybe they like call you babe and you're not the biggest fan of that. So just something as simple as, hey, I don't really love that nickname. Maybe you can call me something else. And then the important part is that they listen to that and respect it and, honor the boundary that you set that you don't want to be called that anymore. So that is an example of a healthy relationship behavior. Okay. Your partner texts you more than you want them to and gets angry if you don't respond. Yeah, this is an unhealthy relationship behavior. So different from the last one, this is an example of when a boundary you set isn't really respected. So, I know when I'm in school, I don't really like to be on my phone. So I would say, hey, like when I'm in school, please don't text me as much. I'm trying to focus. Same thing could apply when you're working. And then instead of respecting that, if they keep doing it or get angry at you for setting that boundary, that's not a healthy relationship behavior. You have a right to say whether or not you want to be communicating all the time. Okay, next up, your partner says you don't really love them because you want to go to a movie with a friend instead of spending time alone with them. Healthy or unhealthy? Yeah, again, this is unhealthy, and someone said in the chat, this is also a little manipulative. So going back to that healthy relationship behavior of independence, you should be able to, do other things with friends or family away from someone else and enjoy the time you're spending with them and not have your partner get upset about that. And especially not saying that they don't love you. That's an example of manipulation because it can be really hurtful and it's also not the truth. You were just trying to have some fun without them, and that's totally normal. Okay, your partner appreciates your passions and encourages you to do the things you love. Yeah, this one is healthy. A lot of times we have passions and interests that are different from our partner or whoever we're in a relationship with, and that's totally normal. But it's still, great to be there for one another and support them and the different things that they do, whether it's maybe going to a sporting event that they're in or, looking at artwork that they've made. But being there and supporting them is definitely a healthy relationship behavior. Okay. If you have a disagreement, your partner uses the silent treatment and won't talk to you for days. Yeah, this one is unhealthy. And we'll talk a little bit more about, what to do in disagreements later. But sometimes it's totally normal to take some space away from a disagreement. But going days without talking is not healthy. And it's going to make it really hard to resolve the conflicts you're in if you're not speaking at all. And it can be really hurtful when you haven't heard from them. So we can go over like healthy conflicts a little bit later, but it's important that you communicate when you need some space and don't drag it out for days. Okay, you always feel like your partner's wishes and goals come first, healthy or unhealthy. Yeah, this one's also unhealthy. There are times when maybe, your partner needs a little extra support, a little extra encouragement. They're finishing a big project at work or school, and, they need that like extra push. But it shouldn't be all the time where you feel like they're always the one that has like the priority and what they want to do and things like that. There should be a nice balance between the two of you. You miss your partner when you go on a vacation with your family, but you have a really good time anyways. Yeah, this is healthy. It's definitely normal to miss, our partner or whoever we're away from when we haven't been with them for a while, but it shouldn't take away from the enjoyment of what you're doing, especially something like a family vacation or, just like a fun thing that you're doing away from them. It's normal to miss them, but it shouldn't take away from that fun that you're having. All right. Your partner refuses to spend time with your family, but still expects that you spend time with theirs. Yeah, this is unhealthy, and it doesn't just apply to spending time with family. It could really be anything, but your partner shouldn't be asking you to do things for them that they are unwilling to do for you. So it could be spending time with family. It could be like doing an activity, really anything. They should be willing to help you out in the same way that they're asking you to do for them. Okay, and then this is our last one for this set of examples, but you had a really good day and can't wait to tell your partner because you know they will be excited to hear about it. Yeah, definitely healthy, wanting to share things that are going on in your life and, knowing that they're going to support you and be an active listener when you're telling them is definitely a healthy relationship behavior. And having that support and back and forth helps make a really strong relationship. And with that, I'm going to give it back over to Tiffany to talk about conflict.
Okay. Maybe it won't zoom in. There we go. All right. So what about conflict? So there's sometimes a misconception that when you have conflict in a relationship, that's a sign that something is wrong. But that's not at all the case. Conflict in a relationship is very, very healthy. It's very, very normal. And that's how you communicate with one another. We're not always going to get along with our partners, our friends, our coworkers, our neighbors all the time. We're not always going to agree. So we can have conflict, but making sure that's healthy conflict, that's the most important part. So, you're different people, every person in your relationship are different. And you're not always going to agree on everything, and it's totally okay. And so there are safe and healthy ways to kind of mitigate these disagreements. But if you are in a relationship where there's constant conflict all the time, that is definitely not okay. That's not healthy. And it can be a sign that there's something going on that you need to go and seek help for. And we'll talk about that in the next slides. But we're going to talk about how to have safe and healthy conflict. There we go. So safe conflict. So safe stands for stay, ask, find, and exchange. So first of all, you want to stay calm. We can't have conflicts when we're at a heightened state, when we're angry, when we're upset, when we're really, really emotional that, we can't really manage the things that we're saying. So sometimes you have to maybe take some deep breaths or even kind of take a step away, walk away from the situation and come back, when your mind and your head is a little bit clear, and that's totally okay. But make sure that when you're doing that, if you do need to take a step away, if you do need to take some time for yourself, that you do communicate that with your partner or your friend or whoever it is that you're in that conflict with and say, listen, I need to take some time. I just need to kind of decompress. I need to clear my head. I just need to get some space. But I promise I'm going to come back and we can address this and we can talk about this in detail. So that's the important part, is to communicate if you do need to take some time. And always, you want to ask questions. So you need to ask each other clarifying questions so that you both have an understanding of the situation. So it's not you and that person you're in a relationship with against one another thinking about it. It's the two of you against that conflict, against that problem, against that situation or that challenge. And so you need to have an understanding for where you're both coming from so you can come to a resolution. And how you do that is you find out feelings. So you really want to take some time to determine and express your own feelings and allow time and space for your partner to do the same. So that talks about active listening. So active listening means that you're really open and you're really engaged and you're really leaning into the things that that other person is saying. And you're really absorbing and trying to get an understanding of how they feel and not really thinking about while they're talking, like, okay, how am I going to respond to this? You want to make sure that you're really engaged and you're really listening, because it's just as important for you to understand their feelings as it is for them to understand yours. And then finally, you want to exchange ideas for a solution. So together you can work to find a solution that you're both happy with in that compromise. And it might not happen in one conversation. You know, you may get to the end of this conversation and say, okay, like, let's just agree to, you know, come back to this later. Or maybe you come to a compromise that you think in that moment that you're okay with, but maybe later on you're like, maybe I don't really feel okay about how we resolve that conflict. And then you come back and you have that other conversation. So it's all about practice, and practicing how to have healthy conflict is something that is going to be always evolving in your relationship, and that you're learning as you're doing. And there's always opportunities to grow. You know, me, myself, and even in my relationships, I learn something about myself and the other person every time we have a conflict. And so just keeping your mind open that it's not you versus them, but you and them versus this conflict or this challenge. So what to do if something feels off? So we mentioned earlier that, you know, you have that gut feeling, something maybe doesn't feel right, something doesn't sit right with you. We've all experienced that, whether it's in a relationship or maybe with a job, or just in any situation. We've always been like, something just doesn't feel right. I'm just not, you know, and that's sort of like, that's like your internal voice, your intuition, you know, telling you that something, you don't feel safe, essentially. So if you're in that situation, you know, it's good to get feedback from someone else. So if you're a young person, taking your concerns to a trusted adult, or this could be a friend or a coworker, or even like your mental health professional, or if you're someone who is involved in a faith-based community, reaching out to someone there, someone that has a different perspective on the situation and can really be helpful in finding a solution for you. And sometimes it can be scary. It can be scary to communicate that maybe someone that you care about or that you're in a relationship with, that maybe something's off. It can be hard to kind of admit that and talk about that, but it is really important to talk to someone. There's also online resources. There's phone numbers, there's hotlines, there's community supports, chat rooms, professionals who can help. And we're going to kind of get into that a little bit later at the end in detail of the resources that we provided and what each individual services that they can help with. And it's important to understand that no one deserves to be treated unfairly or have your boundaries crossed and not enjoy being in a relationship. We all deserve love, and we all deserve to be in healthy relationships. So how to help a friend? We probably all have a relationship in our life where maybe someone has a friend or a romantic partner or even a neighbor or a coworker that you can just tell that they're just not in a healthy relationship, that you can see from the outside, like, this is not good, but you're not really sure what to do or what to say, or maybe even how to bring it up. But there are different ways that you can offer support. And the first way is, you know, a non-judgmental ear, asking them open questions and talk to them about your concerns. And make sure that obviously you're going to do this in private, and let them know that whatever they share with you, that it's just between the two of you, and then they're not going to share it with other people. But offering that non-judgmental ear is really, really important because, you know, they're in it. They're emotionally invested in this relationship to some degree. So you want to make sure that you validate their feelings. You know, so believe the story that your friend is telling you, or your coworker is telling you, your family member, and make sure they know that what they're feeling and what they're experiencing is definitely not their fault, and that they deserve to be treated with respect. And it's really important to be that validating person in their life, because they might not always make the choice to get out of that unhealthy relationship. They may choose to stay, and that's their choice. But making sure that you're not judgmental is really important, because you want to still be that safe person for them, so that when conflict comes up, so when those feelings come up and they want someone to talk to, they know that they can lean into you. You know, and you can help them decide who to go to for help. You can share resources with them, you know, and like I said, let them know that their decisions are their own, and they should do what they feel right for them, but then offer them support on that decision. You know, being in an unhealthy relationship can be very difficult, and sometimes you might not even realize that you're in one. And that's why it's really, really important to look out for those warning signs and seek help when needed. So now I'm going to send it over to Carrie, and we're going to talk about relationships in the media.
Okay, yeah. So there are examples of relationships in so many different aspects of our life, whether that's through social media, TV shows, movies, romance novels, any books we read. There are countless examples of relationships all around us. And it's very easy to look at those relationships and take them as like the perfect relationship, or you'd be like, oh, I really want to have a relationship like theirs. But oftentimes the media can portray or even idealize unhealthy relationships and relationship behaviors. So we're going to look at a few examples of those perfect golden relationships and some TV shows and movies that do exhibit some unhealthy behaviors and talk about how to handle that. Okay, so if there are any Grease fans out there, the first one we're going to look at is Sandy and Danny. This is always my mom's pick for movie nights. So I've seen this quite a few times. So our first one is Danny gets upset and loses interest in Sandy when she does not consent to sexual touching. So again, you can put in the chat whether we think this is unhealthy or healthy. Yeah, for sure. This is an unhealthy relationship behavior. Kind of goes back to the comfortable pace that we referenced in a healthy relationship. You definitely shouldn't feel pressured to do anything you're not ready for, anything you're not comfortable with, and your partner should respect the boundaries you set and not make you feel guilty for it, not push you to do something you're not ready for. So this is definitely an unhealthy relationship behavior. Okay. Sandy changes her style and attitude in order to please Danny. Yeah. So when you get into a relationship, it's important to remember that you're still your own person. You still like the things that you like, you be who you are. You don't want to get into a relationship and feel like your partner is trying to, make you dress different or do things like that. So this is an unhealthy relationship behavior again. So yeah, our next one. Sandy shows up to support Danny at his big car race. Yeah, this is definitely a healthy behavior, being there for one another, supporting each other's passions. It's a great example of a healthy relationship. So, even within all these relationships, there are definitely examples of both healthy and unhealthy relationship behaviors. They go back and forth in both, and that can happen in any relationship. Okay, our next example, Princess and the Frog, Tiana and Naveen. I love this movie. It's such a good one. Naveen lied to Tiana to try and get her help to no longer be a frog. Yeah, this one's unhealthy. Shouldn't be lying or like trying to manipulate the other person if you need their help. That's like an open and honest type of communication where, hey, like I need help with this. Can you like help me out? It's things like that. But lying and manipulating him to get that help is not a healthy relationship behavior. Naveen helps Tiana work to create her restaurant. Yeah, this is, supporting one another and showing up for each other. This is definitely a healthy relationship behavior. They work together to help achieve a goal, which is what you're looking for in a partner. Okay. And then, kind of the opposite. Tiana supports Naveen when he decided to step away from being a prince. Yeah, this one's also healthy. Just like before they're helping each other, it's not like only supporting one passion or interest. They're both working together and they have that nice balance in a relationship. Okay, next, Twilight. This is Edward and Bella. I just watched this one recently. It really took me for a ride. Okay, Edward goes back and forth between being very kind to very cold and distant. Yeah, this is definitely unhealthy. And, we talked about this in those unhealthy relationship behaviors where you feel like you're having to walk on eggshells. You shouldn't feel like you're going to wake up each day and be with a different person or, feel like you're not sure the right thing to say around them. Everyone has those off days, or maybe you're not in the best mood or really stressed out, but it shouldn't be like a constant hot and cold, back and forth, mean or nice type of thing. Overall, it should be pretty, even tempered and you kind of know what's going on. Edward lies to Bella about his behavior and tells her that no one will believe her. Yeah, this one is definitely unhealthy. There's a lot going on here. One, it's not taking responsibility for his own actions. He's deflecting that, trying to say that he didn't do what he did, things like that. And then also, telling Bella that no one's going to believe her if she were to talk to someone. Should never be with someone who's making you think that, you don't know what you saw or that your feelings aren't valid and that you can't go and bring those to other people. So yeah, this one's definitely unhealthy. Okay, and then Edward places Bella in danger and says he's the only one that can protect her. Yeah, again, this one's unhealthy. You shouldn't feel like your partner or whoever's in this relationship is the only person that you can go to if you were to need help, if like you need advice or anything like that. And they definitely shouldn't be putting you in danger and then kind of making you feel that pressure to stay in the relationship just because they're the only one that can help you. So yeah, this was an interesting movie to watch for sure. There was a lot going on here. Okay, next, The Office, Kelly and Ryan. I'm a huge Office fan, so this is a fun one for me. Kelly pretends to be pregnant to get Ryan to go on a date with her. Yeah, this one's unhealthy for sure. There's a lot of manipulation going on here. You shouldn't be lying to your partner, especially not about something like a pregnancy that is like a life-altering thing. So overall, very unhealthy to lie and try to just get personal gain from it. Okay. Ryan constantly looks for reasons to end his relationship with Kelly. Yeah, this one's also unhealthy. If you're not happy in a relationship or you feel like it's time to move on, that's totally okay. Sometimes people just drift apart, but you shouldn't stay in that relationship and, keep leading that other person on when you're ready to move on. You just communicate about that and, end the relationship and kind of go your separate ways instead of staying somewhere where there might be a lot of conflict. Okay. Ryan and Kelly both have friends outside of each other. Yeah, this one's definitely a healthy relationship behavior. They have that independence. They can do things without each other and still have fun and enjoy their time when they're together. Okay. And then Ryan continues to pursue Kelly even when she is healthy and happy in another relationship. Yeah, this one's unhealthy for sure. It can be really hard, when we experience a breakup, and we still wanted to be with that person. It can be really hurtful, and it definitely can take some time to move on from that. But if someone else is happy and moving on, you have to kind of respect that they're in a different place in their life and set that boundary. And if you really feel like you can't move on, you're really struggling, then it might be time to reach out to someone or talk to a mental health professional. Okay, Friends, Ross and Rachel. This is another pretty famous couple. Rachel attends events to support Ross, even though she's not the most interested in the subject. Yeah, this is definitely healthy. She might not be the most into paleontology and dinosaurs, but she still goes to those events for him. And that's a pretty big deal and like a way that she can show up and support him. It's definitely a healthy behavior. Okay, Rachel ignores Ross's concerns about not spending enough time together. Yeah, this one is unhealthy for sure. If your partner or whoever you're in a relationship is bringing a concern to you, nope, you should definitely hear that with an open mind and listen to what they're saying and try to work through it together instead of just brushing it off. Even if you might not have realized that that was happening, if they're bringing it to you, it's something that you should listen to and try to work through together. Okay, and then Ross and Rachel both use past conflicts and actions against one another when arguing. Yeah, this one is also unhealthy. We kind of talked about this earlier. If you're still caught up on something that happened in the past and you need to talk through it again, you feel like it's not been resolved fully, that's totally normal and a good way to bring that up again. But if you're in the middle of a fight and you just like kind of throw something against the other person or like, oh, remember when you did this? That's not healthy. And, rehashing all those conflicts over and over again in like an angry and heated manner is going to put you even further back in trying to solve the conflict you're currently in. And then lastly, most famous couple, Romeo and Juliet, star-crossed lovers. Perfect love story, I'm sure. Romeo and Juliet decide to run away together after knowing each other for just a few days. Yeah, this is definitely unhealthy, not moving at that comfortable pace, really rushing into things, don't really know each other, and you're already taking huge steps together. So this is definitely unhealthy. Romeo cannot live without Juliet in his life, and Juliet cannot live without Romeo. Yeah, this is also unhealthy. Well, it's made to seem very sweet and romantic. Not being able to live without the other person and, contemplating or having thoughts of suicide with if you think about not having that person in your life is definitely not healthy for either of you. And it's a time where you should seek some professional help from like a licensed counselor or a mental health professional. Okay, and then Juliet and Romeo both stop speaking to their families and start lying to loved ones as a result of their relationship. Yeah, this is also unhealthy. You shouldn't feel like you need to lie to anyone in your life because your partner is doing things that, maybe they wouldn't approve of or they're asking you to lie for them. You want to be able to keep all those relationships that you already have and just add a new one instead of, pulling away from people and kind of isolating yourself so that you're only with your partner. Okay, so what does all this mean? Of course, not saying to stop watching all those awesome shows and movies. A lot of those examples I love myself, especially The Office and Friends. I'm gonna watch those for the rest of my life. But it does mean that when you're watching these shows and things like that, take a minute to acknowledge those unhealthy behaviors when you see them and know that on-screen couples are not perfect couples, and a lot of times they present behaviors and arguments and things like that as just the norm and like it happens, but it is important to bring attention to those unhealthy relationship behaviors, and that kind of opens the discussion up to talking about what could have been done instead and like what healthy relationship behaviors really do look like instead of just kind of like accepting them and moving on. Opening up that discussion can help educate and inform a lot of people. And now I'm going to give it back over to Tiffany to talk about, what we've gone over today.
All right. Thank you, Carrie. That was great. And like just kind of to go back on what Carrie was saying is that it's really important, especially if you are working with young people or you're a parent or a caregiver, and and you pay attention to what they're watching, pay attention to what who they follow on social media, and make sure it's an opportunity to have those conversations when those healthy or unhealthy relationship behaviors are being displayed. So we don't always just have to focus on the unhealthy relationship behaviors. You can look at a scenario on a TV show or something that is on social media or on like a TikTok or Instagram or something that's expressing healthy relationship, just to kind of reinforce that and just say, I just want to let you know that's a really great relationship of a healthy relationship behavior. They are exhibiting taking healthy accountability or taking responsibility, or that's a really, really good example of trust and honesty in that relationship. So you're really reinforcing those healthy relationship behaviors in real life scenarios. So not only just kind of talking about it, but using those real life examples and saying like, this is an example of what this looks like. And then the same can be said for unhealthy relationship behaviors, especially when you're seeing things on film and TV and movies. I feel like we focus a lot on the unhealthy stuff a lot because it's kind of more in your face. It's a little bit more obvious sometimes to say, hey, that's because we feel that we're like, I don't feel comfortable looking at that. I look at that or I see that or I hear that and I just don't feel comfortable. So, you're aware that like how those reactions feel in your body. And it's really important to let those young people know and anybody in your life know, like, I feel comfortable with, how this was portrayed, or I understand that these are fictitious characters, but, I don't really like how they did that. My husband and I, we are couch potatoes at the end of the day, and we love watching and binge watching our TV shows. And I find myself getting into the habit of saying, I know that this isn't real, but I really don't like the way that that person handled that conversation, you know? So I find myself making sure and reaffirming to myself, like, oh, this is not a healthy relationship behavior. This isn't. So like I said, going back and educating those young people and letting them know, like, this is unhealthy. This is an example of volatility. That's what, you know, unhealthy conflict looks like. This is what manipulation looks like. This is what volatility looks like, things like that. So that way they can really understand it and kind of put a name to what that behavior is, and that maybe they can then maybe see it and be aware of it in their own relationships and kind of know what to do about it. So we talked about those behaviors in action, real life behaviors, real life scenarios, and you all have a very good understanding of what is healthy and unhealthy. But it's also, you know, when we see it on paper and we hear it to ourselves, we hear it and we're like, I know exactly what that is. But when it's facing us in real life and we are emotionally invested in that relationship, sometimes it can be a little harder when we're feeling that relationship or we're feeling those experiences in real time and with real emotions. It can be tough. But it's really, really important to kind of take stock in what you're feeling and what to do if something does feel off. And then practicing that, how to handle conflict. Like, no one's going to get it right 100% of the time, all the time. You know, that's why one of those healthy relationship behaviors is taking responsibility. So understanding that, like, you can, you know, you can say, hey, I didn't handle that conflict really well. I'm going to take accountability for that. And next time I'm going to, you know, I'm going to be more present. I'm going to make sure that I stay calm. I'm going to make sure that I listen to you. So you can kind of engage some of those healthy relationship behaviors in those conflicts. And, you know, and give yourself some grace. Like I said, it's something that you have to practice. You know, I've been teaching this stuff since I did my training during the pandemic. So since 2020, and we were all kind of cooped up with people and probably a lot of conflict going on in the house when everybody's sort of locked in together. So it was very eye-opening taking a healthy relationships training class. I was like, oh, I need to learn how to do that myself. But it's a great thing to learn. And, you know, that SAFE acronym is really, really great, even if, like, I believe that this is going to be shared. So, like, print that out, you know, put it on the refrigerator. It's a really good reminder for when those conflicts do arise. And we talked about what to do if something feels off, making sure that you are engaging your support system, reaching out and talking to somebody that has a little bit of distance from that scenario. And making sure with that, identifying a safe person that you can talk to. You know, sometimes we have friends that are super engaged that we can lean into. And then sometimes we have that one friend or that one loved one that, you know, is kind of like they want to problem solve and not maybe necessarily listen. And that's also an important reminder, is that when you want to talk to somebody about how you're feeling, let them know, like, I'm going to vent right now, or, hey, I'm looking for solutions right now. So making sure that you're communicating kind of what you want to get out of that conversation. And then the media, we went back and, you know, we did talk about that earlier, about how to have those conversations and why it's really important to kind of be aware of how they can also influence our relationships as well. And so reflection time. So at the very beginning, I asked you all to think about why you were here, what brought you here, what you were looking to get out of it. You know, what questions do you have? What answers are you looking for? So is there something, and we have kind of a small group, which is great. I love the small group dynamic because it allows for a little bit more intimate conversations and to share. If you feel comfortable, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. But if you feel comfortable sharing in the chat, if there was something new that you learned that maybe you weren't aware of before you came in to the training, or maybe something that you would hope to learn more about that we can kind of include in future presentations. And it's okay if you don't want to share, that's totally fine. But that's something, you know, if you feel, I think my contact information is going to be shared at the end. So if anybody wants to reach out and communicate or talk more or continue the conversation, I'm definitely available. Oh, thanks, Tani. Tani, I really like learning about the SAFE conflict, and you work with young teens. So it can be really helpful. So yeah, it's definitely helpful to talk. That's primarily the population that I work with as well. And it's really important to talk to them about how to have that safe and healthy conflict, because it's not really something that's openly taught a whole lot. And maybe even in their own home, maybe there's some things that they're not, those are relationships that aren't displayed for them to learn from. So yeah, so thank you for that. That's awesome. That's all Carrie. Is there something that you took away in addition to learning? Was anything that anybody's going to like kind of take and use or in their own life? And then we're available to answer any questions or kind of continue the conversation. We kind of ended a little bit. We completed the presentation a little bit early today, so we definitely have some time to chat if anybody wants to continue the conversation, or maybe share something maybe on social media or film or TV, that something that kind of sticks out to them that displays an unhealthy or healthy behavior. Okay, well, I really appreciate everyone being here. So I definitely encourage you, you know, when we're done here is, the next time you see a movie or a television show or you're scrolling on social media and everything, to definitely pay attention to some of those behaviors and look for them, and maybe use those 10 signs to try to identify what you're looking at, because really practicing and learning and understanding what they look like really is the best way to really definitely understand those healthy and unhealthy relationship behaviors. So thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, so it's really important to educate those young people who've been negatively impacted by those unhealthy behaviors. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. That's why we love doing these presentations so much. So thank you everyone for being here and for sitting here and sharing your lunch hour with us. We definitely are very honored to be able to share this information. And with that, I hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day yesterday and you still have chocolates and candy at home to eat.
Thank you so much, Tiffany and Carrie. Thank you for bringing us that very important information that we can use in all of our relationships. Thanks to all of you who joined us for our webinar today. You will receive a follow-up email with a link of the recording of the presentation, as well as a survey asking for your feedback. So you can tell us how to improve these webinars. Let us know what other information you'd like to see. We invite you to join us for next month's webinar. That will be Thursday, March 21st, 11:30 to 12:30 for The Healing Power of Art. It will be hosted by Artworks Now. We will be dropping this information in our chat as well, so the registration link will be there. We also invite all of you, if you have not already, sign up to become a champion for the 2024 Children's Mental Health Matters campaign. Learn more about what it means to be a champion and to advocate for the mental well-being of children in your communities. If you have any questions for us here at the Mental Health Association of Maryland, please reach out to us at info@cmhm.mhamd.org. Wonderful. Carolyn, thank you. Carolyn's already a champion. You get the prize today, Carolyn. A round of applause. All right. Thank you all. With that, we'll end today. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.